KŌDŌ, the name itself in Japanese, is the appreciation of Japanese incense. So back in the day, it was a tradition of them basically to sit in a circle and really appreciate the incense, and it became a ritual. And so when I created the company, I really wanted an emphasis on the rituals and kind of the everyday things that might seem mundane, but actually are core to starting your day right, or core to staying grounded throughout your day. And the way I wanted the emphasis on these rituals was through the power of scent, and I think it's really powerful.
I'm Karine, and this is The Seat of the Muse, a show I started out of love for meaningful conversations and a curiosity about the stories behind what people do. Each episode is an invitation to sit down, slow down, and listen in, because sometimes a single story can shift how we view our own. This is a space for the stories we don't always hear, the ones behind the titles, the passions, the quiet turning points, and the worlds hidden in plain sight. Now let's get into today's episode. Yasmin, welcome to the Seat of the Muse podcast.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you're here. And so before starting any session, I like to ask my guest one question.
Okay.
Imagine we're doing this in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Who is one person that you would like to see in your front row and why?
Grace Beverly.
Okay.
I love her. I feel like she's such a hustler. She's like a young female founder. I feel like from the second she left university, she was just like always doing something, really successful at everything she does do. I don't know. I love her. I would love her to be there.
Okay, wow. Well, hopefully, maybe she'll be someday in front of you doing a talk. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, I love that. And so you are just in your 20s, the founder of KŌDŌ.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who don't know KŌDŌ, can you tell us, what it is and what is the core concept of that fragrance?
Yeah. So KŌDŌ, the name itself in Japanese, is the appreciation of Japanese incense. So back in the day, it was a tradition of them basically to sit in a circle and really appreciate the incense, and it became a ritual. And so when I created the company, I really wanted an emphasis on the rituals and kind of the everyday things that might seem mundane, but actually are core to starting your day right, or core to staying grounded throughout your day, whether that was kind of making your cup of coffee in the morning, a meditation, winding down before bed and really taking that time. And the way I wanted the emphasis on these rituals was through the power of scent, and I think it's really powerful. So I used to be an interior designer, and I feel like there was so much emphasis on changing the way someone feels walking into the room, and I think scent can do that as well. So I created a company that essentially blends fragrance, wellness, and the third aspect, which is food. So they're all inspired by your favorite desserts and delicacies that you would enjoy throughout your day.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. And I think before we continue, because I have a little sample here, we can't continue without just fully immersed in KŌDŌ.
Oh, that's the best. This is my favorite one.
Me too. Good morning. I wake up and I just spray it immediately. Yeah. I just love that. And so, as you mentioned before scent, for you there was space because you were because you began your journey in interior design. So can you tell us, when you pivoted from, crafting environments to bottling emotions, and when did you realize you wanted to make that shift?
Yeah, I think I always loved being an interior designer, but I think most interior designers really dream of having their own studio one day. And I knew it. I really just knew it in my gut. That wasn't my dream. So I was doing it. I was enjoying it. I think I was naturally quite good at it. It just was not my end goal. I've always had such a passion for perfume. I was obsessed with perfume. And I realized that I couldn't be so obsessed anymore because it was affecting my endocrine system and my hormones were super irregular. I was getting headaches. And so the shift really began, I would say, in early 2023, where I left my job overnight. I went to Florence for the month. I had just kind of ended something personal in my life at the time, and I wanted a month basically to just completely reset. As cliche as it sounds, I feel like, like it had been a really tough few months. I needed just to have that reset, and I went for the month. And just for fun, I did this Airbnb perfume workshop.
That's so cool.
It was really cool. And I remember messaging my parents on that day being like, I have to work in perfume. I've never felt so happy. Like, I left that workshop feeling invigorated. And I think that's when you know there's like a slight calling to something. It was this like invigoration and like excitement. And by chance, that workshop also had a perfume school later on in that summer. So I applied to the school. I went to perfume school, did a course there, and then I really got along with my teacher. She was just this amazing Italian woman who loved Gourmand scents. And for anyone who doesn't know, Gourmand is basically like fragrances that smell sweet and like your favorite dessert, essentially. So your vanillas, your chocolates. And she loved them as well. And she had the same vision as I did. But she says she's solely a creative. She was not a businesswoman. So I found a way where we could work together. She is now my producer. She's the nose behind the scents. We make them all together in a very intimate, traditional environment using the best quality Italian ingredients. And yeah, that's kind of how the shift happened. It was very organic. And till now, I always say I really don't know why Florence had called me. I had never been. And something in me told me just go to Florence for the month. And I feel like it was meant to be in a way.
I love that, honestly, because I feel like, sometimes you feel it in your like bones, but you just don't know why you have to go, to a certain place, do 100%. A certain thing. And then it just all makes sense in the end.
Yeah.
But I love that. And is there anything you can maybe share with us that you learned during the school? Because I think that's super niche, as classes that you take, etc. That's something that stayed with you up until today.
100%. I think the first thing is what I tapped into in the beginning, which is the history and the rituals behind scent. I had never really looked into it, but we studied a lot of history, especially in the very beginning of the course. And I mean, from a long time ago, like they were using scent in Egypt, like in ancient Egypt, and they were using myrrh and amber or frankincense. In Japan, like I mentioned, it was a very big part of their everyday rituals. And I think scent and fragrance is so much more than just the fragrance itself. And that's what I really learned at the beginning of perfume school, which is there's history behind it, there's tradition, there's even medicine behind it. Because obviously if you're using natural essential oils, then there's so much benefit you can, reap from them. So, that was, I think, the main lesson.
Yeah, I agree. That's like a whole other universe, I feel, the essentials oil. And I think that as well, like, fragrances are so powerful because it also shows you how you can connect not just with an environment, emotions, but with yourself. Because obviously they smell differently on different people.
Yeah.
So it's very personal in that sense. And so what were some maybe parallels between the two disciplines that you had, which is like, interior design and then fragrance design?
Yeah. I feel like my background in interior design really was super helpful with the actual bottle design. So like, I don't know if you can see.
On that one.
So like the actual bottle is very delicate. It's frosted glass. I really wanted it hot printed. So like the writing directly on the bottle. I felt like the colors had to be very soft, very neutrals, like nice, soft, rounded edges. And I feel like the way I designed the bottle was exactly my taste with design. I've always gone for the neutral tones and textures. I've always loved soft curves and edges. I don't like coldness and I don't like harsh design. And so I really feel that really shined through the bottle. And I feel like the bottle is very different to like a cold traditional perfume bottle. So that was the first way I really saw kind of the benefits of being in design and then the link to the fragrance. The second way, honestly, is the way you can manipulate someone feels in a room. So when I use Sweet Dreams, the house smells very sweet and delicate and soft, and you feel that sense of relaxation. Sweet Dreams has like chamomile, honey, vanilla. So it is quite warming, cinnamon. It's quite warming and delicate. But when I spray Pick Me Up, which is like espresso, dark chocolate, you don't feel warm and delicate. You feel like invigorated. You feel kind of, it's like an energetic scent and chocolatey and fun. So I would spray like that before friends coming over or in the middle of the day if I just wanted the house to smell nice. So I feel each scent can really change the way you feel, change the way people feel walking into your home, and change the mood in the space, which is what essentially interiors do as well.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I think there's a whole like psychology around scents as well. And so there was one thing that was going to be one of my questions with regards to the bottle itself. But I think like one interesting thing as well is, usually you have like the psychology of colors and scent. And for you, if I look at all the bottles, I cannot tell which one is which flavor because they don't kind of like, you don't have like, say, Sweet Dreams, which is maybe yellow for the chamomile, or espresso, which is dark. Did you feel like you wanted to keep, all of them kind of in sync and nice because of like, you can also place them in your house and they act as like a decoration?
100%. I always said I wanted the bottle to look like an accessory on your shelf. It does look quite sculptural, our bottle. It looks aesthetic. Like I said, the color works in any space.
Yeah.
And the shape, you do feel like they're like mini sculptures.
Yes.
In a way. So I thought I would want them to be really easily blended into any shelf, any space, no matter what your interior style is like.
Yeah. And so once the idea of KŌDŌ was born, I can only imagine the journey was like not linear for sure. So so when you were like, in Florence and you had that click, what was the first step you took once you decided that this is what you're going to do next?
I just leaped into it. Okay. So I came back and I remember it was like at that time winter. And so I feel like everyone gets a bit, not lazier, but like the weather's horrible and it gets dark early. And so I thought to myself, I'm not going to actually use this time and be lazy with it. Instead, I'm going to hibernate. Like I'm going to completely close myself off from everyone for a few months and just really dive into it and look into everything. And that's what I did. Like I remember those few months in that winter, I hardly left my house, honestly. And I taught myself everything from setting up a company to bank account to, all the legal stuff that goes into making a product, to finding suppliers. I learned so much, and I learned it at that time on my own and through research and obviously amazing people around me supporting me. But that was really, as I know it sounds like a pretty simple answer, but sometimes you just have to go and dive into it deep and just figure it out along the way and teach yourself. And honestly, Google's amazing. Like I Googled the most simple questions, how to set up a company registration number. And I feel like that's the stuff I would start with, which isn't actually the creative. It's if you have the idea, go and like get all the legal stuff done, because it's the mundane stuff and it takes a while, and it's the, the rest is so nice and exciting and fun. So you might as well just get all the core things out the way so that you can actually then have fun with the creative process of it all. Yeah,
no, I fully agree. I think like in any job anyway, you have that admin side that you have to go through. Yeah. And so you mentioned obviously, like you did the Google and you search around and you did all of that, but did you have any support in terms of like maybe a mentor, people you aspire to in that industry, and then also financially, like did you bootstrap this or how did you start, the business?
I think in the industry, funnily enough, I didn't have anyone in the fragrance industry that was kind of someone I looked up to, but I had so many female founders that I had listened to and followed for so many years. And again, I feel like some things just happen like serendipitously. So I was obsessed with podcasts. I mean, I still am obsessed with podcasts. Now
you're on one.
Now I'm on a podcast, which feels very
I love
full
that.
circle. But I listen to every female podcast, I think. So I love Sif Haider. So she's the founder of Array. Yes. I feel like she's amazing. And she really talks about her brand journey and her founder journey and her husband. And I just feel like the way her whole dynamic, and they've co-created the company. So I love listening to her and her husband. I mentioned I love Grace Beverly. Lauren Bostic, I feel like, is the queen of podcasts. Bryony Deary at the time also, I remember thinking she's always on it. Like she's always posting. She's always interacting with her followers. So I took inspiration from different women, but not in fragrance itself, in the way they were either creating a brand, the way they were hustling, the way they were communicating with their community. And that's where I really took inspiration from. And honestly, this is going to sound a bit cliche, but like the woman in my family and actually all my family members, I take a lot of inspiration from in different ways. So I find kind of my brother, actually all my siblings, really hardworking. My brother and my sisters, my parents as well. They've always been really ambitious, and I feel like it is helpful to have this kind of foundation behind you that you've grown up looking up to, and that push you to do your best. And that I've never had a day where I feel like it's okay to be complacent or to be lazy or not to do anything. I have people around me that are working really hard and that want to do well and that are building successful stories. And so I think that was actually also a huge part of my story.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. And I love that, you tapped into the resources you had and you find inspiration in people you can't necessarily, have next to you. But it's available out there. And I think any founder should also, do the same and listen to those podcasts out there because you can learn so much from it. Like I do it for my own podcast.
Yeah,
so
100%.
So, yeah.
You learn about how to, you must learn even what are the right way to ask certain questions or how
learning.
to. Yeah, no, you're actually really good. I'm enjoying this.
I love that.
But yeah, you do. I'm sure you learn so much, and I think our generation has it easy when it comes. We have it hard in many other ways, but we have it easy when it comes to information. There's no excuse. We have access to interviews, podcasts, articles, YouTube videos.
ChatGPT.
As simple as that. I'm still old school. I don't use ChatGPT yet.
Okay, I love that.
But I feel like I need to hop on because apparently it's very useful. So yeah, I feel like that was in terms of inspiration. And then to answer your second question, when it came to the financial side of things, it was all bootstrapped.
Okay.
So obviously that has its benefits in a lot of ways, but it also has kind of the other side, which is you're on a tightrope and you really are thinking about how much you're spending on a not even daily basis, on an hourly basis, because when you found a company, it's not just the production costs and the obvious things people think, it's every single penny from your domain to your to the emails to
everything has a price.
Has a price, things I didn't even think about before starting a brand, which is on the box when you buy it, there's the barcodes. I pay a subscription to have a barcode.
Wow, I had no idea for that.
I had no idea either. So it's all these small things that add up, which all add up. And then you have your production costs. And obviously, because we're a clean brand, our formula is more expensive. We're not mixing it with chemicals to cheapen it or to prolong it. So the formula itself is, I think, quite a large cost to us. Raw material, and then we've grown. It's only been a year, but we've grown quite a lot in this year, and so the more you grow, the more your costs actually increase. So we just moved into a warehouse and a fulfillment center, which is amazing. And I'm not there packing 5,000 boxes, but it's still, an extra cost to us. So whatever comes in, honestly, is all reinvested.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And I think that's a great way to start as well. You want to be fully invested in it. So for sure. And so obviously KŌDŌ is more than a perfume. It's, as you say, a ritual and an emotion. So I want to go into a bit the creative process. So how did you start developing the first scents? They come from memory, from, moods, a story.
Yeah, I think they were all... I sat down at the beginning and I remember thinking I want to start with a collection of 4. I feel like that feels just like a whole, a whole collection. And I just started brainstorming what are things that I love. And I'm such a foodie. And I'm a foodie, but I'm also a wellness freak. So I do love experimenting with healthy recipes, and I love my matcha in the morning. It's very basic, I know, but I do, and I feel like it's because I've perfected the recipe. So I just started brainstorming on what are things I look forward to in my day, and one of them is my morning matcha. It's that feeling of when I wake up, heating up my milk. At the time I was making, I remember this really nice homemade almond milk, but with cinnamon and sea salt.
Oh, wow.
So it was really creamy and very decadent. And
we
so
should have got those here, not water.
I'll bring you homemade milk next time.
Please.
Such an almond mom. So yeah, I started making this homemade almond milk with my matcha. And so I remember thinking, okay, I want a scent that smells like my sweet mornings. And my mornings did become very sweet. So I wanted the green, for example, in Morning Glory, there's green tea, which obviously represents the matcha element, vanilla, because I love vanilla in that milk. Or I would add these vanilla stevia drops, let's say. I've also put crème de lait in it because I wanted that creamy aspect that I get from the milk and the matcha. There's cinnamon, like mentioned. Coconut, because I know so many people enjoy their matcha also with coconut milk. And so, that's the way I created the scents, which was how do I like the food I make and how do I enjoy it? So Morning Glory, I wouldn't just use those notes, but I also would use the scent before meditating. So like, when you wake up and your room smells like a bit sleepy, sometimes I'd open the window, I'd spray Morning Glory, and then I'd do my meditation in the room. So it was a combination of my wellness practices with the food that I really enjoyed in that moment. And then all of them obviously were the same thing, just with different ingredients. Pick me up is like your midday coffee, or I feel like I need a piece of chocolate every day. Like I just need that sweet treat. And so pick me up was that. By the fire, I felt like people say it smells like cinnamon buns.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree? I think so too. And it smells like Christmas in the bottles. But for me, the inspiration behind it wasn't an actual food. It was more the feeling of Christmas.
Okay.
And the feeling of like warmth in the house and a dinner party. And I felt like all the scents out there that people would use at home are either floral, which I really don't like, or I don't know, there was no sweet element to them that still felt elevated. So with By the Fire, I really wanted a feeling to come through with it, which is this feeling of like people over and you're all by the fireplace and it's cozy and there's still a sweet feel to it. And Sweet Dreams, I mean, I love a chamomile honey tea. I feel like you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, definitely every night. Okay, I love that. And so once you kind of like had those in mind, do you like just take them with you to Florence and then you just sit down with your manufacturer, or how does the process itself kind of go into? Just like, very briefly, if you want to give a...
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I had all those ideas and then I went and honestly, it's going to sound very funny, but I made them the way I would shop, which is like, if I go into a store, I can just tell what I like and what I don't like. It's like, I know I want this style of top. I either find it or I don't. And I went into the studio, I remember that day. We made all of them in one day. Wow. And it was very much, this is my vision. I then went and like, there's a whole, let's say, section of different formulas. I remember going and like smelling each of them. I remember falling in love with the chocolate. Like I was like, no way, this is chocolate hazelnut. This smells like Nutella. And I got so excited. So I would just get all the like kind of oils that I thought would work. We would lay them on the table. I would speak to the nose and I just knew instantly, like if she made one, I was like, no or yes, no or yes. And it was very decisive. And as soon as there was a yes, I would not kind of linger around it. I'd be like, okay, confirmed, next one. Yeah. Because I feel like with perfume, it could be a never-ending process.
For sure. So overwhelming, like trying out all those different smells. And like I wanted to ask, was there any, like, because obviously you launched, 4 specific like scents. Yeah. Was there a scent that you had in mind, but like didn't really turn out the way you expected and then just like never saw the daylight?
Ooh, that's... Yes, actually there was one. I don't know if I can say it though, only because I've actually adjusted it and I want to release it.
No. Then that's the sneak peek people get. There's a new scent coming.
It's coming soon, but yes, there was one that I've adjusted a few times. I feel like we finally got there.
Yeah, okay, amazing. I won't ask more. And so just obviously, like we talked a lot about how it's, sweet and related to food and wellness, but obviously there's the clean aspect. So I just want to do a bit of a pause on like product education. And can you tell me like what makes your fragrance clean and why is it different to like the traditional ones we see, every day?
So I think a lot of the mainstream brands, and obviously like I'm not here to like, name any names, but most brands, especially in home fragrance, and in personal perfume, will use extenders, parabens, and include phthalates in their perfumes. And essentially, the term parfum is so general, and the way the laws are around it and the regulation is very interesting because under that term parfum, you can have up to 5,000 ingredients. Wow. So when people like, I still get messages being like, you say you're non-toxic, but you have parfum. And I'm like, yes, we are, because in that term parfum, we're not using all those harmful chemicals. Okay. Parfum, as it's in its pure form, isn't harmful. Yeah. It's when you mix it with all these different chemicals to either make the perfume last longer at home or on yourself, to last longer on the shelves, that's when you get the harmful the harmful impact on your health. So the difference with KŌDŌ is we do say we're clean, we say we're non-toxic, and it's because we don't use phthalates, which are hormone disruptors, and we don't use parabens or preservatives. We make it in a very in an as natural way as possible. We use the best quality raw material that we can get, which, as mentioned before, is more expensive. But I do believe that if you're going to provide a product that is very good for you and that is that people will essentially love and that feels luxurious but at an affordable or accessible price point, then I do think that in itself will sell, and that's where the product will shine and speak for itself.
Yeah, no, I fully agree on that. And then so obviously whenever I think, for example, about something being cleaner or natural, etc., it comes with the connotation that maybe you're compromising on something, whether, I don't know, quality, shelf life, etc. So how long, I would say, maybe does KŌDŌ last in the air on yourself compared to something that would have those toxics that you talk about?
Yeah, I think your average perfume or home fragrance usually lasts around 6 to 8 hours. With a more natural version, you're looking at around 4 to 6 hours. So there's not much difference. I mean, I rather compromise on those couple of hours than on my health.
Yeah, just spray more. It's fine.
Spray more. And
you also have minis.
I was gonna say now we have these little mini ones. So I feel you can put this in your bag. You can put it in your pocket. You can take it. I mean, this is very TMI, but you can even take it with you to the office and that feeling when you go to the bathroom in the office, or I don't know, in a public space. Sometimes you just need.
Totally agree.
You need the mini scent with you, and it's perfect because it works in interiors as well. So I feel just spray more. And really it's a couple of hours. I still think they last very long. I get a lot of messages from our customers, especially with By the Fire, and they say that one, when they spray it at home, lasts till the next day, and they spray it on their furniture. They have no issues with it. So
amazing. Okay, I love that. And so now let's maybe quickly talk about putting the brand out there, because obviously you sell online. I know you're in some maybe retailers, but then when you want to advertise it, you can't really advertise the smell. So how did you go about that? And then we'll tackle maybe a bit this scent marketing aspect as well.
Okay, I was going to say, so the first way I tackled it was through scent marketing. But if you want, we can go into that later. But I think the helpful part about our fragrances is the fact that they're all foodie related and inspired by your favorite food. So the way we would advertise that naturally is through food. So the Morning Glory, we were advertising it with coconut and matcha. Pick Me Up was a very decadent marketing campaign, which was all about chocolate and drizzle and decadence and espresso beans. And so the way we were marketing all the scents was through food, because they have food in they're inspired by food. But the funny thing about that is I feel all brands now are using food marketing. So that's when I really believe in right place, right time, because it was the core of our brand naturally, and yet we were able to hop onto a trend which was already kind of happening and had just started, which is this, all the brands now, Rhode, Summer Fridays, they're marketing their lip balms with donuts and cookies, and I feel we were able to really be part of that story naturally. So that's the way I feel people smell through their computer or through their phone. Another way, honestly, is through speech, through talking. So either if it's not me, it's influencers, and gifting the product out and then allowing people to review them, I think really does wonders, because some people are excellent at it. So especially in the fragrance world, you have loads of fragrance reviewers on TikTok. So I would send and gift these fragrance, I think there's actually a name. It's called Perfume Talk. And it's a whole world of people reviewing perfumes. So the way they describe them, I think really markets the product for you, and they get so excited and they smell it, and then they let it whiff in the air, and they're oh my gosh, it's cookies baking in the oven. And I feel that also helped market it without being in store.
That's super interesting, I mean, to be honest. And I fully agree with this whole right place, right time, because you see it everywhere now. And so just as I start to maybe wrap up a bit, behind every scent there is a story, but behind every brand there is a founder. So I just want to look back a bit at your own journey. Look, what were the biggest maybe challenges you faced when you started KŌDŌ?
I think doing it all on your own in terms of the everyday work at the beginning was definitely the hardest part. Because you really are doing it all, and you hear it a lot. Like, I feel every founder says you do it all, but there's a difference in hearing it and then actually living it. And I'm not going to sit here and say my hours are so long that I'm not sleeping at night and this, because they're not. I actually feel like I have quite a healthy balance when it comes to the hours that I'm working. It's more the mental toll it takes on you, because your mind doesn't stop. I wake up and I'm thinking about doing social media, and then I'm also doing customer service and emails, and then I'm also dealing with the warehouse and then the producers
many hats
and then
you wear.
Excel. I had to teach myself how to use Excel. I did not know how to use Excel when I first started, and so I was trying to do an income statement for the first time when I launched, and I was so confused. I mean, I still am very confused. And so that for me was the biggest challenge. I knew my strengths. My strengths were really in the creative, and I would say in the communication. I love talking. I love meeting people. I love hearing other stories. But my strengths aren't in the numbers and in the financials and in some of the administration and logistics. And I feel like you really have to do it all at the beginning. So I would say, that was definitely my biggest challenge.
Okay, amazing. So you're a team of one.
Right now, I'm really glad. I actually have an amazing girl helping me.
Okay, amazing.
So she kind of helps with a lot of now the marketing stuff and social media. But other than that, us two. Okay,
great. And so what surprised you maybe the most about running a fragrance brand that you wouldn't have maybe expected?
How this is quite a positive thing, but the reviews, I feel like I never expected so many people to reach out personally about a product, because I've done it a few times in my life, but I was never one to constantly review a product and email the company. And I've had so many amazing emails from people saying how it's some of them are really as big as you've changed my life because I stopped using perfume because I had this autoimmune disease and so I feel like it's those things that really still surprise me when I get an amazing email or message. And also the other side of it, which is I also get some emails and I'm there and I'm at the other end of the screen being do people actually write this? This is so mean. So it's definitely the surprise on both sides. They're mostly, I would say 99% are amazing, but you do have that 1% of customers that will write you a very harsh review with zero filter. And you have to just take it, I guess.
I guess it counterbalances, you have both sides.
And people that want free product, that really surprises me. Influencers, I can understand. It's just the game. But I get loads of messages just from customers after having bought the product but without opening it, wanting to return it.
Oh wow.
But obviously I know a lot of them have opened it and smelt it, and so I feel you also see that side of humans, which is a bit I feel people can be kind of greedy, but mostly it's very positive.
Okay, amazing. I love that. I mean, I need to wrap this up, unfortunately. As much as I would have loved to talk more about this, maybe we'll talk more when we get your new product in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it was a pleasure, honestly, to talk. And I mean, I just need to spray it again.
We can spray it on ourselves after.
Exactly. And then we'll do one last time. And then we're done.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've been listening to The Seat of the Muse, and I'm so grateful you chose to spend this time with me. If something stirred you today, a thought, a feeling, a question, I'd love for you to subscribe and follow on your favorite platform, leave a review, and even share this episode with a friend. Your support truly fuels this space and helps invite more voices to sit down with me. Until next time, stay curious.